All right, everybody, welcome back to the fourth episode of JSR Dungeon. It's me, your host, Jeremy Sig, and then we also have.
Hey guys, it's Ava.
And then I'm back, Emily, after missing last week. Super excited to be back. So let's get started.
Yes, we have Emily in on this episode. We don't have Charlie on this episode. So that's okay. We have a lot to talk about. This was a very interesting episode in terms of the dynamics of the game, but we do have special guests, Baylor and Alicia tonight. Woo! So they're going to be joining us in on this talk. And they'll fill in with their opinions as we go on through the episode. But let's bring them in. Let's have them on. Let's see if I can get them in. How do I get them in?
Emily, stop.
There we go. They're coming.
Yay.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Welcome to the
Baylor.
dungeon.
Welcome, Baylor. Welcome,
Yes.
Alicia. Let's see. Where's Alicia?
Also, Baylor, you are currently doxing yourself if you care about that.
The names won't show up on the recording. It's all right.
Oh,
How am I
perfect.
not to myself?
Okay, there's everybody. Woo, welcome. All
Hey,
right,
Yes.
so Baylor, I'm surprised you're not wearing the suit. I wore the suit for you tonight.
That was my role play costume.
Uh, so we're gonna start, and throughout this episode, we're just gonna talk about what happened through the episode, and when your guys' parts come in and where things might happen for you, that's when we'll ask for your opinion. You can chime in and everything. But other than that, let's just get straight into it. So this episode opens up with the traitor talk, and the traitors are introduced with the idea that they have to poison somebody. And we see that they made a plan to poison Nick. Obviously, that didn't go too well. We see later in the episode that they poisoned Bill. So,
No.
reactions. How do you feel? I mean, Baylor and Alicia, you can chime in here too because you weren't here for Bill's actual revelation. He was poisoned. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I had no clue. I thought the way that they did it was actually really creative. Especially with a group of like Big Brother fans. I think Carson did a really good job of getting it out of him, and I don't think that Bill had the slightest suspicion. I think he was just kind of like joking around when he said it. I thought it was great.
yeah, it was pretty good how Carson like snuck that in. Like, I would not have suspected anything if I was there.
Yeah, it was pretty sly, I won't lie. But Ava, I know you were really upset.
I love Bill so much. That is like my bestie. He's always my number one when we play together. And as soon as I saw them in the room together, like Bill 100% is like the perfect target for something like that because he's just like I feel like he's like never tuned in to like stuff like that. So as soon as Carson said it, I was like, no, 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 no. And then immediately Bill's like, oh, expect the unexpected. I was like,
I think Bill is such like a reality TV show fan that when Carson kind of like what's the word like wound that up, he just like
But
basically
yeah, he couldn't resist the bait. He had to show
oh
his
he
knowledge.
couldn't.
I feel like I would have been the same way though.
I would have too. I would have been expecting unexpected.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, Javen got lucky because then he kind of repeated it once Bill had said it. So, because Javen's another big fan there.
Hmm. Well, so then we also talking about that trader talk next. Keisha did bring up the shield that she won. The other person who won the shield we have on the call here. Baylor, did you tell anybody that you won the shield?
I didn't before the night, but I think in the episode I came into the round or to the breakfast and I was like, "Can't kill me. I have the shield or whatever." But I didn't tell anyone because I didn't really know who was going to kill me if they found out. So I don't know.
Right, right. No, I think that was a smart play. I don't think you should ever share a shield if you have the opportunity not to. But then we see Carson being upset about Nick calling him out for the whole Chad and Romania thing. I know Alicia in the episode too, we saw that Carson kind of tried to trick you a little bit when he said that you had a different flag with a star or something. But
Yeah, I like in the moment I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe he was just so focused on looking at his own one that he didn't really pay no mind to my one. But looking back, like I'm thinking to myself, why was I so stupid? Like, why didn't I, point that out or say anything? I think like we were also trying to get the comp over and done with, so I just didn't want to waste any time. I just wanted to say my flag and move on, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should have listened to what you said in episode one. You called Carson a snake. What do you think changed from then until just like, kind of accepting the idea that maybe he's not a traitor? Because you didn't really say anything about him the entire season.
Yeah, I didn't want like any past bias to go into this game. Like I wanted to give everyone an equal chance. Like this is traitors, it's not like Big Brother or anything. You have to look for the traitors. The traitors are the enemy, not like your pre-existing relationships. And to me, he just screamed dumb faithful. Like yeah, I I kind of flopped
Yeah,
there.
I mean, he was the one to honestly throw your name out there to be killed. So that kind of bit you in the butt.
Yeah, I know, I know.
So I'll turn the microphone over to Emily and Ava and Baylor too. How do you guys think of the decision to kill Alicia?
Clock that T at the end of the podcast last week. Um, I don't know. I was upset because I love Alicia, but I kind of didn't see it coming. I think like you were playing pretty quiet, like you said in your like murder interview, and I think it's so annoying because they keep saying like in the early stages, but I feel like at this point like it's what 3 to 9 traitors to faithful. Like we're not in the beginning anymore, but based on information, they're playing like it's the first episode. Like nobody except Baylor, in my opinion, had any good leads on anything. And so they kind of have free reign to just play it like it's the beginning. And so taking out the quiet people who don't necessarily cause like any uproar for a kill, I think it's a smart kill. Like obviously, again, I didn't want it to be Alicia, but I think from the trader's point of view, I think it's just one of the ones that made sense, especially considering like people who do take the meta and run with that. Like Alicia does have connections on this cast. And so if you're gonna go on any one of the quiet ones, I think Alicia's a good one to kind of just take out of the equation for like a lot of people.
Well, and I think Alicia didn't really know Justice or Keisha at all. And like you see Carson saying, "Oh, like, well, I Alicia was kind of one who trusted me, but now I just got rid of her." I think that Carson was kind of like he had more important allies still in, like Nick and mainly Nick at that point, that it was like if he had to pick between like two JSR Survivor people, he was gonna pick Nick over Alicia, I think.
Why is Carlos in the waiting room?
I was wondering where Carlos
He didn't
was.
even text us.
Uh,
He's a
Viewers, we're so
choice.
sorry if this causes any interruption. Okay. Well,
Girl. Oh,
Hello.
are you at
Hi.
work? Are you at work?
Yeah, I'm just popping in real quick.
Okay. Well,
What are you
welcome.
guys talking about?
hey.
Baylor, Alicia. Hi, 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 hi.
Hi.
Hi, I didn't get to watch the episode, but I loved watching Baylor and Alicia play this game. I just wanted to say that. I think that both of you were so fun to watch. And I don't know what you guys were talking about, but love you guys. I just wanted to say that. That's all. I have to go back to work.
I
Bye. Love you guys.
Always great to hear from a fan.
All right. Well, that kind of threw me off a little bit, but what was I gonna say?
The Alicia kill. We were talking about why.
Yeah, so should we discuss like their like conversation about who they should kill, I guess?
Yeah, because they were also talking about mostly Marissa and Noelle as the alternatives to killing Alicia. Um, I don't know. Do you guys think they made the right decision over those three?
I
100%.
thought I would have kept Alicia. I mean, I think I voted Alicia first the first round because I kind of figured if there are three traders, they're all going to have like different personalities. So I kind of thought like Carson's going to be the big loud one. I thought there was going to be definitely a quiet one, and I thought either Keisha or Alicia was playing that role. So I kind of knew it was one of them, just be like the quiet one to kind of balance out the others, and that's why I voted Alicia first. So I could have kind of would have expected to keep that and keep her in the game just because there was a little suspicion on her.
Well, and then last episode too, we saw them discussing Alicia as well as an option to murder. And we saw Justice with saying that Alicia was quiet in her deep dark black hole, like we don't know what's going on with her. So you were a hot topic for the traders, Alicia.
Oh,
How do you feel? Like, do you think your strategy was what would you change about your strategy? How do you feel about your strategy?
um, so I played another Traitors game and I was talking way too much and I got knocked out straight away. So I came into this game thinking, okay, I'm going to do the complete opposite because I don't want the same thing to happen again. Um, I think it's just really hard because you don't know who the traitors are. You don't know what they're going to base the kills off of. Like, um, so I just didn't know really what to do. I think I would change not DMing because I barely did that. I only did it when people were DMing me first. So I think that's the only thing I would change. Maybe be a bit more vocal because I didn't really think that I could get killed off for being quiet. But then now that I think about it, it does make sense because then who's gonna get the blame for killing me? No one. So
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think really the only contribution we saw from you at a round table was you saying that I'm not going to contribute anything if I have nothing else to say.
It was you ate that. You literally ate that. Like I would say, like, I'm not gonna talk if I have nothing to say. Like, because then I'm just more
But
agreeable.
that can backfire, I think, because then it makes it you look either sus or like you don't have any information to contribute. So then it's like, what's the point of keeping you around if you're not gonna like make the traders look safe? I think that could backfire though.
this is true. But
I feel like
I don't know.
it's like, oh, go ahead, Alicia.
I was gonna say so many people were wasting time with their thoughts. They were like yip yapping. So I just didn't want to also waste time. Like I just wanted to get straight to the point,
Yeah,
and
I think
let
it's such
people.
a tough thing to navigate because like you
Mhm.
look at the two people who are leaving in this episode and are here with us tonight, and it's like, okay, Alicia got killed because she wasn't saying enough, but Baylor's getting killed because he's saying too much. And it's not just like he's not shooting the shit. He's like providing points with evidence behind them or like thought out thoughts, for lack of a better word. So it's like finding that happy medium as a faithful is, in my opinion, so much harder than playing a good trader game. Because again, I said this last episode, you have to worry about not getting banished and not getting murdered. So it's like trying to find that sweet spot is so hard. And like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's doing that correctly right now, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Well, let's talk about some of the reactions to Alicia's death. We saw people like Nick and Noel who were upset. We expected that, they were working with Alicia, but we saw people like Zendaya who was who was very happy to see Alicia dead. She was jumping for joy in her confessionals, but at the same time, she also thought she was being framed. So, Alicia, what's the beef with you and Zendaya? You voted for her. You guys are happy that each other are dying. What's going on?
There was genuinely no beef at all. Like I really like Jendaya as a person. I don't. Did, I didn't even realize she was in the game round one. And then when round two rolled around, I was like, oh my god, she's been sneaking by. It's her. She has to be a traitor because usually she would make more noise. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with Zoom, and I had to flick back for the page to see all the people, and I did not notice Jendaya. So there's no beef. I just thought she was a traitor.
Well, one
Well,
thing I do think is kind of interesting, comparing your accusation to Zendaya at the time to your strategy, is both of you are considered louder individuals
Mhm.
and more like explosive game players. So how come for you, when you were doing the same thing, it was suspicious for Zendaya to be doing it?
oh,
That I actually was thinking that as I was watching. I was thinking I am being a bit of a hypocrite, but I don't know. I feel like you kind of have to. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes you have to look at everything, and I was being a little bit silly there. There were other things I should have been looking at, but oh well.
So, and then Alicia, I'll ask you this too, because your confessional for the exit interview, you said leaving the game, you were suspicious of Zendaya, which we knew, but you also said Justice, Leak, and Baylor. So Why were you suspicious of those three, if you remember?
Baylor, to me, he felt really smart and talkative, and he was throwing out names, and I feel like I feel like he was kind of confident for someone, like, I thought people who were talkative would get killed off, and that wasn't happening to him. So I did think that was kind of what made me suspicious of him. Um,
I could be confident because I had shields back to back nights, so I could go
that's
over
true, that's true.
That's true. The
Um,
minute you didn't have one. Whoosh.
yeah. Who else did I suspect?
See?
Oh yeah, Justice.
Injustice.
Um, her clinging on to Noelle, that did kind of make me feel a bit weird about her. And I felt like she was a good like middle ground player where she's not got too much of a spotlight on her, but she's also not in the background either. And that's kind of what made me suspicious of her because I feel like that's how I would want to play if I was a traitor.
Hmm.
Um
And
and then
then Lee. I want to know why you suspected Lee.
um I don't even remember fully. I think I don't know.
It was the Aurora Borealis background. It just
Was it when yeah, it was the Oreo Borealis. Or was it, or maybe it was when Lee called out Baylor last round too.
That was so silly to me because when he was calling out Baylor, I knew that he thought he said his name when it was actually mine. I was thinking to myself, it did sound like Leak at the time when Baylor said
Mhm.
that. But I don't know what it was. I think I just could imagine Jeremy picking Leak. I think that's all it was really.
Well, speaking of the vote, Baylor, you did vote for Alicia that round too. You want to deep dive into that a little more? Why did you vote for
Like
Alicia?
I said, I knew there would be like different archetypes. I thought there was gonna be a loud
Oh,
one, a middle one who's like firm and confident, and then a quiet one. So I took the two quiet people, Alicia and Keisha. Keisha, I don't know, she didn't seem like a traitor, but Alicia kind of seemed like devious and like well connected. So, but she was also quiet. So I felt okay. Let me just. I don't think I'm going home here, so let me just take a stab in the dark. And if I'm right, I'll get like bragging rights. But if I'm wrong, it won't really affect me. And I don't think it affected my game at all. So I think it was a shot that I was willing to take.
hmm.
I feel like Baylor, if he didn't keep getting the shield, like you needed those shields, I
Yeah.
feel like. If you didn't have them, like your name was every single round. It was like at least one person was saying your name. And it's like, what, where are they even getting your name from, you know?
Well, if you listen to what they say after my name, it was that I was throwing out possibilities. And then you go to the round table where I'm evicted and they go, okay, after we get him out, we need to start opening up possibilities. I'm like, okay, so what was I trying to do this entire game?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we'll definitely get to that later too, but that was very silly to see like see it play out. But we'll move on to quickly the actually I want to ask this question to both of you before we move on. So both of you were there for the whole Danny saga in terms of kind of jumping on Danny. Baylor, you were a big component in getting all that heat on Danny, but you never once until the tiebreakers were voting for Danny. So what I mean, I can see as the host what was going on, but explain to the viewers what was going on.
So I thought as the game started, it was going to be like think of it as like a seafloor in the ocean, just like very still. I wanted to kind of stir it up so that, everything would start getting kind of muddied and then we could start to see while things were floating at the top, like where things were happening. So I thought, okay, obviously people are gonna be thinking the same thing, or I can make them think the same thing that, okay, maybe getting a shield that early is like kind of risky. I didn't think Danny was a faithful, I mean a traitor, but I knew that it was gonna get people talking about it. So I was just like, okay, I just threw his name out there, and then if I thought it would come back to me. So if it came back to me, my plan would have been to just say, "Hey, I just said let's ask the question. I think we should be asking questions." Obviously that wasn't well received, but I did think it was a valid question to ask at the time when we're trying to get as much information as possible.
I agree. I feel like, and I think me and Ava have both said this on the podcast, but you reminded me a lot of Pilot Pete. You were the Pilot Pete of the season in terms of, you were the faithful trying to figure shit out. You were throwing everything at the wall, trying to like make things make sense. But, it worked with some people, and then it didn't with the others, and it ended up just not working out in your
I
favor.
think that was like what I was trying to get as a sub goal, but I think my main goal was kind of just to make it harder for the traders to keep up with their lies and kind of just blend in. I wanted them to kind of work for their their traderness.
But
Okay.
looking back, do you think going too hard on Danny kind of hurt you personally though? Like,
Yeah,
do you
I guess it was too early because no one was. Yeah, people like weren't throwing out names, and I just came out right out of the gate throwing names. Um, I think the DMs got me in trouble because I was using Danny's name in the DMs to kind of start an alliance because I knew I would need some sort of allies to get far in the game. So I was DMing a lot of people. I thought if my point of view was if I was getting approached in DMs, I wouldn't have like rat them out. I would, okay, I'm going to use this because if I'm a trader, someone's coming in with information, I'm faithful, I'm getting information. I'm not going to throw that under the bus, but people are just throwing me under the bus and I tried DMing them, which I don't know. I would have tried to work with people a little bit more.
Well, now I
So
have a question. Oh, go ahead, Ava. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, I was gonna say I asked a few episodes ago how like integral DMs were, or if that was like a you guys can DM like said, and Loki Jeremy was like it wasn't really important, but it's sounding like it was important. So like, what were your guys' take on the DM part of the game? Because obviously it's not something us as viewers get to see, and there's not a ton of relationship building in the edit either. So sometimes I'm having to piece together like okay, this person is working with them and this and that, just based on like very like little confessional bits that we get. So I'd love if you guys could just like dive into like the social aspect of this game and like who you guys were working with and what your kind of plan was prior to death and banishment.
For me, I didn't think DMs were even allowed. So I was just responding to whoever messaged me first. And the only people who were messaging me were like the survivor lot, like Theo, Nick, and Carson. So yeah, I had a group chat with Theo and Nick. We really were a trio. Um, and then Carson, we didn't really DM much, but he said he liked my Evo, and then um, he threw out suspicion on Marissa, and that was about it with Carson. But yeah, I would have DM'd more if I realized everyone was doing it, but I just didn't know really.
So
So,
I kind of just assumed that DMs would be underutilized. So I kind of adopted that as my gameplay. I was like, no one else is going to be DMing, so I'm going to use that to kind of build trust. I realized now that it came off as like snaky. I guess when you frame it as like Javen said, he was like, why are you asking questions? This isn't an interview. But my whole gameplay was like, I'm going to ask as many questions as possible. So
Mhm.
there were kind of two different sides of Faithful, and I landed on the wrong side.
Well, speaking of Javen, that was gonna be my question was, did you ever DM Javen Danny's name, or was that just through word of mouth?
I think I picked two people. I picked Marissa because I knew she would like likely not throw me under the bus for receiving DM, and I think I DM'd Nick, and I was just like, okay, Danny went for the shield first. I wonder why. Like
And that
that's literally,
spread. So it spread from
yeah.
two people.
I knew it was gonna spread. I didn't think it would spread like that negatively.
Well, it didn't spread necessarily through the DMs. Baylor was, and we saw in the episodes Baylor going into rooms and
Yeah.
saying we should question Danny and see why Danny did this.
Well, I framed it as we should let them have the opportunity to defend themselves, which would
Him,
be a little better.
but as a host, I didn't even realize how much DMing was actually going on. It's hard. I mean, obviously, I can't see it. So I didn't know what was actually going on. I don't think, like, in terms of the actual gameplay itself, I feel as though it only just gave extra ammunition, but was never like the
Yeah.
telltale of things that happened, if that makes sense.
Well, like because you just said, like Baylor still did say Danny's name on camera. It's not like it was just like a
Right.
unmentioned kind of thing. So yeah, I agree. Like you said, maybe a catalyst, but not like the only cause,
Right.
basically.
It was like supporting information, but not the information,
Okay.
or the source, I should say, in my opinion. But okay, so there's that. We'll still get some more of Baylor's stuff as we go on. But we see in the mission, we'll talk a little bit about the mission now. Right away, when we're explaining the mission rules,
Oh my God.
the biggest flub of the century. Carson says, is it in the traders chat? Um, I don't know. I feel like that's only a thing Carson would do. You don't see it from a
100%.
lot of other people. That is just like a classic Carson move. Um, but it was hilarious. But we saw that Norris caught it. We saw that Nick caught it. And a couple others caught it too. Like I think Noel even had seen it. I want to ask Baylor or Alicia, oh, well, Alicia was dead, my bad. But
Oh,
Baylor, Baylor, did you catch that at all, or did it just not even cross
Well,
your
I think like what you said, it's just like a Carson thing. I thought, my thing was putting faithful in my name as a joke, and Carson was like doing the same exact thing. Like, oh, is this Trader Chat? Um, but in my head, I'm like, oh wow, his joke was received a lot much better than mine because mine almost got me voted out. So yeah, I just thought he was kidding.
Mhm.
I think it's so interesting that nobody like brought that up after it
Yeah.
happened, like publicly. Like we heard it from confessionals, but like nobody at the round table was like, or even just in breakout rooms, like Carson, girly, what was that?
They
Well,
were
Right.
I
afraid of like bringing people's names up.
well, I
Yeah,
think Jeremy said himself, like Nick noticed it. Okay, well, we knew Nick and Carson were working together, and Carson probably would not have killed Nick, right? So Noel and who was the other one you said? Noel
Morris.
Doris.
and Norris. Maybe they would have called out Carson, but I don't think Nick would have at that point.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
My thing is, if you have information, but I mean, I guess they can't. I mean, it's contradictory comparing to what they just did to Danny and Baylor, I guess. But if you have information, why are you going to sit on it?
This gameplay is like so confusing to me. Like Jenny, I just like would like to put that out there. I have no idea what these faithfuls are doing. Like it genuinely makes no sense to me. I'm like, what is going on? Like we're 4 episodes in. You guys have lost what 6 people now, 5 people, and no one's doing anything productive except for Baylor. And then you vote him out.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Javen
know.
said, "Why are we asking questions? This isn't an interview." So that should be the summary for all the faithfuls.
I just don't. I do not get. I totally understand where like Keisha's coming from because like she was like kind of like putting some heat on Baylor towards the end of the round table. Like Carson and Justice played it fine, but I'm like, you guys have to be dumb. Like genuinely, you have to like what genuinely what is going on.
I genuinely think Carson at that point is the loudest one in the room. And it doesn't, besides Baylor really speaking up against Carson, I don't really feel like at this point that we've seen anyone is really being super extra about it. So if Baylor's name's already out there, we saw Norris maybe be like, oh, maybe it's not Baylor. But then they were like, oh, okay, then who? And then it was like, well, crickets, right? So it's like,
Yeah,
you're not really going to say anything if Carson's really the only one talking. And then you don't want to be the one kind of just thrown under the bus.
Right.
yeah.
So let's talk about it a little. We'll talk about, I mean, but within both the breakout rooms and the round table, we see Marissa start this conversation on the idea
Mother.
of targeting Baylor. And she said, I mean, Marissa was worried about Baylor targeting her because she was calling him out. But she's just like, something is off. He DMs everybody. He didn't vote Danny. I mean, she was building a case. And in retrospect, like I would have felt for it too. I'm like, this kind of makes sense. Even though as a viewer, you can see Baylor as being like the most faithful of faithfuls, the case they're building does kind of make sense. Do you disagree,
Well,
Baylor?
I think it only makes sense because it's the only thing they have. It
Right.
is literally the only thing they have. Like I'm gonna be honest, like a third of the cast forgot they were on the show until tonight. Like there are so many people who just straight up are not contributing anything. And so I think we've all 3 of us have said this from the jump. Like they're going off of nothing, so they have to latch on to anything. So it's just like, I don't know. I find it extremely weird. I don't know. This whole episode, like just like weird and big bold text, like slapped out on the episode title.
Yeah, I think the criticism coming from Marissa, it was accurate, but it was unfortunate because she was one of the people I chose to work with. I wish she wouldn't. Maybe someone got in her ear or whatever, but I wish she would have just like been a little more receptive to me saying like, "Hey, like I'm literally just trying to work here." I get that I was the only person doing it and I was doing it loud because I was frustrated that no one else was doing it. So maybe I could have been a little better at that. But like, no one was trying to work with me. Like Keisha said when she was voting me out, like, I really would have loved to work with you. Like you were someone that I was hoping to work with. It's like well, where was that? Why didn't you? No one's trying to work with me, so I'm kind of on my own here.
Well, now, question, Baylor. You and Marissa played like the first ever like Discord season of this game, right? Is that what maybe somewhat influenced you into messaging her as being one of those two people you were gonna DM like at the beginning,
I
you
mean,
said,
she
or
was dressed up nice. Like I thought she was like gonna take it seriously. Was like a smart person. I was like, okay, I can get behind this. Like we'll work together.
did you recognize her from like forever ago
No,
or
no, I had
not
no idea
even?
who she
Not
was.
even.
I didn't
Okay.
know who anyone was.
Well,
Cool.
yeah, well, for the record, in that JSR 14, the first ever Discord season, Bailey was fourth place, Marissa was second place. So they had some
Oh,
history.
I
wait,
was
Marissa
gonna win the whole
second
thing.
food or second place?
No, she was second place.
Mother.
And
It was
Baylor
running
didn't
up.
even remember her? Sick.
I mean, it was years ago.
There's a lot of Marissas on the
I did
world.
the same thing. I didn't remember Claudine and we played a season together.
Very true. Very true. And I don't think Marissa recognized either because she didn't
Yeah.
say anything. She also was on the same season as Carson where he won, but she was like first or second boot, and I know she didn't remember that either. But okay, so Marissa starts it off. I mean, like you guys are saying, a lot of people aren't contributing, but the people that are contributing, the faithfuls that are contributing, I should say, are doing all the work for the traders. It is unbelievable to watch because I mean, Baylor and Alicia shaking their head, but they were doing the same thing. Everybody was accusing the wrong person. They were accusing the other people that were speaking up, and no one was accusing the people that were like, Carson, Justice, and Keisha all speak up. Like they're not quiet by any means. But if you watch the edit, they are not the ones leading the conversation. They jump on the conversations. And no one has been catching that so far, in my opinion. I don't know. So what would you guys do different if you were going to watch this? Like, how would you be able to catch a traitor? Because neither of you guys could.
Oh,
Um, I think I definitely would, I don't know, it's hard because like at the time there was so much going on and it was hard for me to keep up. Um, but yeah, I think I would definitely, I don't know. I would definitely keep track of who's throwing out whose names and who's just clinging on to it, even in the votes as well.
Hmm.
Um, that's one of the reasons why I even voted differently. So we would know that I'm an individual and that I don't cling on to names. Um, but yeah.
Well, that's kind of like what I was going off of when I kind of suspected Carson, and as soon as I brought that up, and I was like, is Carson always this loud? Like I knew what I was doing, but when Javen like jumped on that, I was like, okay, maybe I need to like not call out Carson anymore. So I didn't really know the approach to take. I knew it could have been Carson. It just, I don't know, it seemed likely, but no one was really receptive to me. No one was listening to me. So I kind of had to like not go after him and just go after people that had a chance of getting votes so that I could stay safe. So like that's kind of why I went after Javen. I'm like, okay, Javen's also loud. Maybe I can get enough people to get behind me. If I go after Carson, I'm gonna get voted out. So maybe I can get enough votes on Javen where I can stay another day.
Hmm. Baylor, do you think your approach was too direct? Like, is there a more indirect way to try and pry names or talk about names without just saying, we need to talk about Danny?
Yeah, I probably could have played like more of like a mastermind role and have them give me information, but even then I feel like that would have come across as like snaky because no one was really playing their own individual game. So if I'd come off the bat and my whole goal is like, okay, I'm gonna get information from people, like what does that look like? It's still like me initiating topics like, oh, who do you guys think is the shady? Like I think I tried that approach and I was like, did anyone have did anyone observe anyone's reactions at breakfast? And then Chafin brought that up at the round table. He's like, well, you were asking like if people saw anything at breakfast. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? I've tried
Right.
like, going after names and I've tried going after like emotions. So I don't know what you guys want me to do.
You were like, you just can't win kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
Say too much, you don't say enough.
yeah.
At that
Well,
point, I think your name was just going around.
well, let's talk about not saying enough, Baylor. The vow of silence.
Oh,
Please
sorry.
implement the strategy of the vow of silence. So, what do you think about your vow of silence? Let's talk about your opinions.
I think my hand was forced. I think it was the only logical conclusion to being told that I'm throwing people's name out. And then when I switched that strategy to talk about people's reactions, I was also shut down. So I think in my mind, I envisioned a big JSR edit of like Dan's funeral, like montage, where I'm just quiet in every room and like the votes are flipping and people are coming on my side. Like, wow, he's really got something going. But I mean, it's not the first time. Like you were kind of talking about how Alicia's normally an explosive player. I feel like I'm pretty neutral, and then once I figure that my hand is forced or my back's against the wall, and I'm just going home, kind of like Dan's funeral, I blew up in that sense and just took a vow of silence. I think I did it in like another game where I just gave up and started listing off like facts about healthcare for all and like political stances to try to get people to donate, and I just gave up. But I wouldn't say this was giving up. I just think it was like me proving a point, and I was okay with being a martyr at that point in the game. Like I told you so.
Right.
I tried everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you were out there throwing out lines like these are the weirdest accusations. I shared every information I had and I got in trouble for it.
Right.
I'm the only one asking questions, and I agree with you. I mean, the faithfuls look just to be blunt, they look really stupid. Um,
Well, when you say verbatim, I'm voting this person out for throwing out possibilities, but after this vote, we need to open up possibilities. I mean, it's just like it's laughable. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
You had no chance. You had no chance at that point.
right. No, there was no chance. I mean, they weren't intentionally gaslighting Baylor, but just looking at it, it's just like, damn, Baylor's being gaslit. Like what more can he say? He said everything. But in that scenario, I feel like you can tell Baylor's being genuine, in my opinion.
That's kind of what like I was watching the episode tonight, and I was like, how would I come across if I was you? And I'm like, this guy isn't lying. This guy can't lie. Like he has a straight face. It just seems genuine. He's like just giving up. I don't know. I feel like I came across pretty
Now,
genuine.
Baylor, I have a question. When you were doing your vow of silence, did it feel as awkward for you being quiet when everyone else is just kind of staring at you as it felt watching? Like,
I knew that's how it was going to be edited. I because when I jumped into the room, I knew exactly what was happening. Like, I don't know if I was the only one flip-flopping between rooms, but I thought that was a valid strategy. Like, why am I going to sit in one room if I'm not hearing, like, if I don't not hearing anything valuable, I'm going to go to the other room and try to talk to everyone.
and
So,
then it just quiet, crickets.
yeah.
Well,
And
no, Baylor, you definitely were the room hopper of the season. So you were, yeah, like other people did go to rooms here and there, but you were the one that would try and be in every room, which
I feel like that's
again,
not a very trader thing to do. I don't know.
yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think the faithfuls just lost the plot here, with this vote, and they lost the plot with Danny's vote too. It's just the defensiveness I feel like was genuine, and that's what's missing. That's what's not connecting with me. Where is the level of discernment with these faithfuls? What's going on here? But then let's talk on the contrary then to Carson's game, to Keisha's game, to Justice's game. How do we feel from these four episodes about their game?
I thought Keisha was a little messy. I didn't pick up on it like as much as I should have, but I did have some sort of inklings. Just from what she was like saying about me, I was like, okay, if she has got this much to say about me, obviously they're talking in the trader room, like that there's some sus. I mean, just to push on that, that was kind of their plan. I thought Justice was fantastic. I would have never guessed that. Like, I realized that she was a recruit, but she was so well spoken. I thought she was like her intentions were to get faithfuls on her side. And then, I mean, Carson, I kind of just knew Carson like looks like a traitor, acts like a traitor.
it's
I'm
just
sure
a,
Alicia better reads than me though.
who would y'all have picked? Like, say you were picked to be a traitor and you had to pick a recruit. Who, in hindsight, like from the four episodes we've seen so far, who do you think you would have picked instead besides Justice?
I think I would have picked Norris, actually. Um, I feel like they're a really smart player, and um, I feel like there's someone who is very talkative, and I feel like they would have ate in that role. I think it's also smart to pick someone who you don't have connections with, and I don't have connections with Norris, so it would have made sense for me.
I probably would have picked Nick. I kind of thought that's, like voted out. I was like, Nick and Carson are gonna win. I thought that Carson was a traitor, and my next guess would be okay if I was a traitor, who would I pick? And I thought Nick. was kind of too obvious to be true, and that's why I thought like reverse psychology. So probably would have put in there.
So, um, to credit to Carson's game, I think, well, Carson and Keisha, I think both had a pivotal role in really cementing Baylor's vote out. Carson was going on tangents about how Baylor is a bad faithful and cancerous to the team.
That's what I knew. That's what I knew. He was a traitor for sure.
Yeah. And then Keisha was, had the same sentiments, just like really prying down the idea that a good faithful who's investigating is a bad faithful. And in doing that, they kind of set the tone for the idea that if you're investigating, you're a bad faithful. So it'd be interesting to see if that pattern continues throughout the season. But that's a horrible thing to think. And as of this episode, they have the entire house misted with that. I just think that's crazy, crazy to
If
think.
you're faithful and you find yourself like nodding your head or agreeing to, we need to punish anyone asking questions because that's traitorous, just assume whoever said that is the traitor. That should be the golden rule.
And then I 100% agree. Then again, with Norris's vote, we'll talk about the votes now. I mean, it was unanimous for you, Baylor. But the like you already mentioned, Norris's vote when he said, "Okay, moving forward, we need to think differently than we have been and not vote together and this, and that." I thought it was like we talked about that sentiment, but I thought it was so funny with Justice agreeing with it. Justice during her vote was like, "Yeah, after this vote, we should be following Norris's idea."
Well,
I,
that's the thing with all the faith. I mean, obviously looking back on it now, the traitors like they never said anything unique. They were always just
Mhm.
listening for what other people said and then kind of twisting it or like strengthening their argument and making it seem like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, like blah blah blah. Like Keisha did it when Carson said it, which was a great like traitor alley-oop kind of thing. But then Justice doing it with Norris, I think that was their strong suit. They didn't have to come up with anything. They just had to hear things that they liked and then use that.
When you heard Norris say that word for word, like, did you like laugh so hard?
It
Were
was,
you
it was
like,
ridiculous. And then other people said the same exact thing. Well, I don't know how you can say that. Maybe they were just nervous to be on camera. I don't know.
Was there anyone, Baylor, that you expected to vote for you, or did you just think everyone was going to vote for you, or anyone not to vote for you, I should say?
I thought Marissa would have changed her tune. I thought it made sense when she voted me the first time. I thought her reasoning was good, but then once she realized how quickly it gained steam, in her, if I was in her, she'd be like, "Wait, there's no way I got that like that right." I don't. There's so many people, and like I don't know. I can't imagine being right. I would have. That's kind of with Danny. Like I didn't vote for Danny because it was like there's no way Danny's actually a traitor. I wouldn't have just got this right and everyone agree with me. I don't know.
well, I think at that point, especially we're what, 4 rounds in, you're like, you just want to be right so bad that even if you have like a sliver of doubt in your mind, I think probably Marissa and everyone else is like, well, Baylor has done all this. It's like, maybe we're right. Maybe we're
Yeah.
finally gonna get one. And then it's like, oh crap, no, again, basically.
Well, we saw Danny in his exit speech. He talked about how there was a mob mentality going on. And then we see on this episode Norris talking about how he agrees with the collective conscience, like the collective intuition on this vote. But, do we think that it was mob mentality, people just trying to save themselves, or do we think people actually thought that it was Danny, that it was Baylor?
I don't think anyone was trying to save themselves. I just think they wanted to look on the good side of the vote so that they wouldn't have any sus. They wouldn't have to have do extra work defending themselves if questioned about their vote. I don't think. I think they want to do as little vote work as possible, and just voting with the House is a little easier. But I don't think anyone felt in danger because no one's name was coming up. So I don't know.
Should we talk about the Javen Baylor rivalry a little bit? I feel like we haven't gone too much into that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were going at it. We
Yeah.
saw Gavin kind of started that rivalry because he wanted his revenge on Baylor for Danny. Um, yeah, Baylor, how do you feel about Javen?
I get it. I get the Danny revenge. If I had known Danny was so popular in the house, I wouldn't have ever brought up their ring shield. I had no idea who this person was. I'm just like, hey, why did this person go for shield? And then, everyone that both names that I threw out, Javen was like jumping on a grenade to defend them. So I'm like, wow, Javen, I think you're the traitor. And I genuinely did. I had like four strong convictions. Um, but once Javen started defending every single person that I was bringing up, I'm like, you're also bad faithful too if you're doing this. But you're not even consider possibility, and you're just defending your friends. But yeah, as an outsider, I would have seen these two people arguing as like, there's no way these guys are traitors. They're playing terribly. So I don't know why I got voted out.
Well, I thought it was funny when you did get voted out. We saw in confessionals, Jendaya said, "I knew Baylor wasn't faithful, or Baylor was faithful." And but like, if you knew that, why didn't you speak up? Or
Yeah.
if I mean, if maybe if you didn't know, if you thought that, I'm not understanding like the same thing we're all saying. I'm not understanding the faithful's gameplay. If you see something, if you think something, say something.
I think they were just too scared that they would be the next target. I think everyone was just like, why am I going to say a name when I've seen Baylor say a name? I've seen Danny kind of was, talkative and whatnot. I think they just didn't want it to backfire on them. And at this point, it's like you're just trying to like slowly get to the end. As long as they don't kill you, if you're quiet enough, they won't kill you. And if you're not loud enough at the round table, they're probably not going to vote you out. So I feel like it was just kind of like a game of like survival at that point.
I mean, credit to Marissa for actually speaking up on her opinion this episode. But at what point, I mean, this entire season, it's been the same people running the roundtable. We see Baylor ran the roundtables this season. We see Javen running the roundtables. We saw Danny running them. And then we see the three traders piping up and supporting the things that are being said. But we don't see the other people speaking up for themselves. I mean, maybe we saw Noel with Bagelgate speaking up for himself. But other than that, we don't see Noel throwing out names. So it's just like, why are they letting the same people run the game? And at what point do you look at the people running the game and decide that they might need to go?
I think I was okay with being a martyr. Like I said, like my whole strategy was kind of just to make it harder for the traders. I wanted to muddy the waters, cause as much chaos as possible. In my mind, my chaos like would have went under the radar. I thought there was gonna be a lot more drama, but I don't know. I don't know how many like followers these people on Instagram if they want more or like want more screen time or whatever. But I don't know like what kind of egos were happening. I was okay with getting voted out as long as like I made it easier for the faithfuls to figure it out. I guess other people disagreed.
I
Well,
guess.
I don't know how many followers you'll get off of this season, but you were like the main character, so you got Ava's heart, so that's what matters.
I do think it's worth noting. I feel like when a faithful's back is against the wall, they're so much more likely to just like throw in the towel and surrender. But betrayers have so much more at stake. I would assume. So like I feel like they're the ones that are very quick to like, oh no, it's Javen, and then like try to like form some bullshit case against them, just like try to not get voted out.
Well, that's exactly what I did. So thanks.
Well, I mean, like I feel like it would have been a little bit different of just like because you just kind of were just like, okay, like if you
Yeah.
want out, like you're losing a faithful. But I
Yeah,
feel like
I
traders,
was so faithful I wanted to stay, but now that you say that, like I'm like, okay, maybe he was fighting a little too hard. Maybe he is a traitor. I don't know.
oh, maybe.
Looking back, Baylor and Alicia, are you happy with how you played? Are you happy with your performance? Or do you have like a sore point that you're like, man, I really wish I didn't do that?
I mean,
Uh,
it would have been cool if I was able to like stay longer and suss it out and really kind of find out information. I feel like I didn't figure out anything. Um, Maybe in a different cast where people were like more willing to take risks, I would have fared a little better, but it was fun.
I think going back, I would look at everything. I think even small things like the flags, like now that I'm thinking about it, Luxembourg, like that one, that flag stands out compared to the rest to me. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, like looking back, it's just hard. I feel like it's a lot easier to think that faithfuls are being done from the viewer's perspective, but like in the moment, it's like it is really hard. Like I was more worried about my own actions than looking at other people's. Like I just didn't want to make myself look like a traitor. So
Yeah,
it's just hard to focus on everything. But yeah,
that's a very valid point. That's a very valid point. We do as a viewer tend to forget that the faithfuls are protecting themselves first before they're trying to find the traitor. Well, most of the time, anyways. I don't know if Baylor could say the same, but
Oh,
but I agree they should be playing like Baylor because, you get someone like Baylor out, then who's going to start the conversations? I mean, clearly it happens. The season finishes, so we do see things happen, but Baylor could have been a great help. Alicia could have been a great help too. She just needed to speak up.
Guys, it's hard.
But
You just know who the traitors are, the players don't.
that's true.
True.
So I mean that pretty much covers the entire episode. Before, we can speak about generalities of the game, but is it Alicia or Baylor, do you have any like comments that you think we missed and you want to talk about?
no, I had a notes document. I think we pretty much covered it. I had a lot of zingers and one-liners that I didn't get to use, but
Use them now.
I think
Use them
we
now.
covered up most of it. The episode speaks for itself. My airtime speaks for itself. I don't agree with the assessment that I'm over the top. I thought it was pretty neutral as far as traders go.
I will stay on the casting side. Baylor was a very fun get because I think we knew like he would bring it. Alicia too. Like even though she was more like under the radar, like we always knew like you two would bring it, especially for an edited video series, I would say.
Yeah, I knew Jeremy needed content, so that was my goal.
Right. Clip farming.
So
But
when's JSR The Bachelor?
who do you want to be the bachelor, Ava?
I don't
Carson.
know. Yeah, Carson, right? Mr. Engaged.
Yeah,
I think Baylor would be a good pick.
Him and his fiance.
we need Are You the One season 2. Baylor was in Are You the One season 1.
Oh yeah, the pandemic was a different time.
Mhm.
Historians will look back at that.
Well, okay. Ava, before we finish this off, I want to ask you your updated winner picks. Your updated, who do you think will die? I mean, we know Bill's gonna die next episode. He got poisoned, but who
My
do you think will
beloved.
die? Who do you think will get voted out? Where do you think the game is heading?
I am gonna switch back to a trader's win because these faithfuls are acting stupid. Like I have no faith in the faithfuls. Um, so I've said Carson at Final Fire the whole way through because I think whether the faithful drag him there and vote him out or he gets a win for the traders. Um, I'm gonna keep Marissa there because I think I had her there. But I think I'm gonna put Keisha there too now. I don't think I had her there before, but I think just like the way that she's playing right now, she's playing really, really well. Like we saw in the end of the episode confessionals, people being like, I really trust Keisha, like she's definitely a faithful, which I'm okay, girl, go off. Um, and then I'll say, hmm, who else is on the cast? Let's throw Norris in there. I really like Norris this episode. I think he had a lot of really like good thoughts. I loved his like little speech after he voted. I thought that was like very well said. I think it was like important information that the faithfuls
I
had.
don't think it made sense.
Well, I mean, it's more than what everybody else has been given combined. So yeah, I'll do Norris, Marissa, Keisha, Carson with a trader's win.
Okay. Well, I did just see a comment in the chat. Javen said, I will say I felt really bad for Baylor watching this episode, and he apologized. Baylor, how do you feel
I
about
know I just read that.
that?
Yeah, I think the episode did a good job portraying of what had happened. I don't think there's any editing magic. Javen and I definitely, it's as much as my fault as his. We should have realized, like, what are we doing? Let's work together. I think he was too set on like the Danny stuff, but the Danny stuff should have never gotten to where it got to. Like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all, but I was like, okay, we have nothing to go off of. Danny took a shield super early. Let's like use that as a discussion point. It sucks that it was Danny first, but like we have to talk about everyone, so why not just start with someone? And Danny was the person that we started with.
Now, Baylor, I have a question kind of going off the Javen thing. At the end, you said, "Oh, I think it's him." I know we've heard you kind of say you thought maybe it would be someone loud, whether it be a Carson or a Javen. But do you think part of you at the time only said Javen's name because he was coming for you?
Well, that's a good point, and it's like multifaceted. Yes, one, I think at the top of it, I thought Javen was the only person I could get enough votes for to stay. Two, Javen was loud. I didn't think Javen was a traitor until my like I was put on the spot and I was like, okay, I brought up two names and Javen's tried to turn it against me both times. It would make sense for Javen to be a traitor. I didn't think Javen was a traitor. I thought it was Carson and Nick. I thought he recruited Nick, but I was like, I don't know why Javen is playing this way if you're not a traitor. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And the realization after the end of the episode too, where it was like Marissa was like, okay, maybe we should take Baylor's lead for the next round table after Baylor's been voted out, and all this everyone's saying maybe we should, play the way Baylor's been saying. But like you said, you were a martyr, your influence was there. And
That's all I
hope,
wanted. Yeah,
yeah. And
I wanted to
hopefully
help the faithfuls, and I feel like I did that.
and I think both of you guys know who how the end plays out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well then,
Tune in for the
yeah.
next few weeks at JSR on YouTube.
I
Baylor
think
comes back through the battle back and wins with Alicia. Woo!
yeah, the
Yes.
ghost of Baylor and Alicia haunt episode 5. But that's all we have. I don't think there's too much we didn't cover. It was pretty straightforward this episode. So thank you all for being here. Baylor and Alicia, you were great additions to the cast. We appreciate your time and your energy. So until next time, maybe we'll see you back on another project. Who knows? So
Maybe. I've been on all the rest.
yeah, Alicia, we need to get you on Are You the One season 2. Then you can be on every single JSR spinoff. But all right, thank you guys and good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right.